Well, good morning. I'm Tom Neiman. Thanks for checking out my channel, Landscape Painting Demos. Today we're going to try a little painting, trying to reuse the existing remnants of palette from my earlier painting that I did earlier this week. We're going to call this Golden Haze over Wetlands. It's kind of a marsh scene. Done a few paintings like this, but I'm going to try to maybe tilt the color scheme a little bit toward the ochre, yellow ochre side of the scale here. And what I'm thinking in my mind is a little curve. Try and build some linear perspective with the shoreline, row of trees, and some interesting reflections in clouds and stuff in the water. A little bit of a higher, horizon line, and maybe some reeds coming up if I can make it work here in the foreground. So I think I'm gonna start this with a little bit of a tonal wash. I get my beautiful, well-used hardware store chip brush, little 2-inch angled brush, and we're going to put this to work. Now the paint here is going to be a little stiff, even though it's been humid. I didn't use any sort of treatment or cover. I'll scrape this today when I shut down and move on to other things after this painting, but get the kind of a mixed tonal wash on here, and selectively kind of put the darker tones where I believe we're likely to see some darker shadows. Some of which will probably gray out, some of which will, while doing so, will mute some of these darker tones and such, but I just want to get the paint working as quickly as possible. Now I'll dip into the yellow ochre and get a little more oil in there. Then we'll go ahead and just scrub in the ochre, and we'll lose some of the definition in this little kind of quick set of shapes that I put in, and that's okay. We're gonna wipe and lift paint as we go. Oil in there. You can see my canvas is loose, and that's totally okay. Doing that intentionally. I want to be able to adjust on the fly as I go here. There we go. All right. Got the whole canvas covered here, and we'll start wiping and shaping with our paper towel. So it doesn't look on screen. Doesn't look like much. That's okay. We're just starting to build some of the tonal aspects and some of the aspects with the shapes as well. And in the sky, this will be one of the lighter sections here. Come through and lift off a lot of this paint. We'll work a little harder in the areas where it's going to be really bright. It's largely going to be in this area here, but we'll also create some textures and lift some paint off. It'll make it easier for us when we start incorporating some of the thicker paints. I'll probably get a little bit of my CAD red into this as well before I start putting in some of the thicker paint here. Just lifting and focusing on the shapes themselves and trying to create some textures within the shapes. It's the start of that process right here. Squint my eyes a little bit and see where I might be able to lift off some more paint. And actually, toward the end of this roll of shop towel, sometimes I'll save these. I forget where I learned this from, but sometimes I'll save these when they get low and use it when I take my rig out into the field and paint on plein air, just so it takes up less space. All right, two-ply this, wrap it around my index finger, dip into some linseed oil, and really scrub in spots where we want the very lightest tone. And I'll just keep working it this way until I get the variance in tone set the way that I want it. Not quite there yet, but we're getting there. Everywhere I see like thicker layer of oil, I'll try and lift it up a little bit because I know it'll make it easier to get more colorful layers of paint on there as we move forward. So you can see a spot like that, I might lift that up a little bit. All right, now I think I will start with some of the work that I need to put in here, maybe with a 1 inch or a 2 inch chip brush. I'm going to look for one that has some remnants of darker paint on there. Get some of my storage solution out on the brush, just beat it and scrub it into a towel. And I get a little bit of reddish brown in particularly in this area here. Just feather it in, both in the sky and the water. And to varying degrees, we'll lift this color off in spots where it's too intense. Just get a very light coating in select areas here. Put that down. And I'll go back to my paper towel here. And I'm not going to lift much of it off. I'm just going to blend and lift in select areas. Scrub the same brush out. We get a little oil in there. Do the same thing. Hopefully get more of it out. Okay. Now go back in. Excuse me. I'm gonna mix a little bit of sap green, a little bit of burnt umber, and a little bit of ultramarine blue. And we're going to start laying in the darkest of the darks, which are going to be, you know, this distant hill and some of the trees. That pop up here. You can put some of those trees in just by turning the brush on its side and just putting the shape in. I have a few up here as well. Have some more dark color. It'll loop around here a little bit. Actually, I want this to be a little warmer, a little greener, a little less blue. just going to scrub it in because it's going to get adjusted. Into this blue here, a little bit of a darker. Then we're going to put in taller tree shape here. Fix that up a little bit, so I'm not too concerned about the shape of that trunk right now, because we're going to fix that up. Okay. All right. Back into this red and burn umber mixture. Probably have to put some more burn umber on there. All right, now we're gonna make a little corner like this with our paper towel. We're gonna shape this a little bit. Wipe some of that paint off. Too worried about destroying this because we're going to come back over it again multiple times. Oops. I'm going to have to open up a new pack of shop towel. Alright. Now we'll cut in there a little bit. The trunk's just a little too thick. Just keep shaping this initially by wiping off, and then eventually by shifting the paint. And I think that's probably closer to the thickness we're looking for. Just want to get the general scale close to where I want it to be. We're going to push and pull. Okay. I think that's pretty close. All right. All right, decent start. Okay, open up a new pack of paper towel. I did not plan well here. Pardon the interruption. lately, as I've been making these videos, for a while I was able to go live with a lot of ease. Lately been challenged by that, and that's okay. What I do is I just simply upload the video, save a copy to my hard drive, and I upload the video, typically unedited. Partly because I'm lazy, partly because I just don't have the time to fuss with the editing. And lately too, I've been getting a reoccurring suggestion, which eventually I'm going to have to figure out how to do. It's been suggested by a bunch of viewers that I get a black curtain to hang behind my paintings as a way of making it easier to see, less distracting, less cluttered. And I'm definitely going to have to figure out the best way to do that. Good. Let's see. Wipe away some spots within the tree. Make a mess of it. Okay. All right, I'm gonna get a large filbert. Most people probably consider this a medium-sized filbert, and I'm gonna mix up some grayish blue. Might try to pull some lavender in. Let's see if I can find more blue in here. I'm not going to be able to, so let's squeeze out some more blue. There we go. Excuse me. I imagine my palette being such a mess is not a big help either. But we have cad yellow, yellow ochre, burnt umber, sap green, some Payne's gray, ultramarine blue, white, cad red. That's what we're working with today. So just so you know what my palette is that I'm working with here. All right, there we go. So I'm going to build in some of the shadow patterns in the sky a little bit more. We have these nice kind of lavender pastel-y tones that are gonna weave their way throughout the sky, up and behind the tree here. We're gonna have slightly bluer tones coming up. Over the horizon here. There we go. That's kind of what we're going for. Roughly right. And we're going to have some more grays coming in. And then we'll have this corner will knock in some indication. And then a random series of floating clouds here. All right. And then, we'll have this cloud maybe come back up. This way. Why not? Now we have to get a similar tone, marking the reflections, and in many cases it'll be a mirror image, almost, if not exactly. And we're going to pull that reflection of the land down into there as well. And we have these darker areas here. Get some blues in to the sky, and then in this area the reflection as well, but for now just want to darken this area a little bit because it will be darker when it's all said and done. Okay. All right. Do is dip into this burnt umber here, and we're gonna just pull down some indication of a reflection of these trees and the land. Just pull down. Selectively make some of these cloud reflections a little bit darker. Excuse me. All right, I'm going to come through with some of this darker color here and really focus in on the shoreline and the areas that are likely to catch the most shadow. Darken them a little bit. And now include in this tree. Yeah, I carved out the shape that I wanted, and most of it will be in shadow, vertical plane. Put the shape in. I'm not going to paint every leaf or branch. Parts of it will be illuminated by light bouncing around, parts of it will be in shadow. And I'm probably going to set it up so that the shape does a better job of leading the eye out. Out and maybe down. All right. I'm gonna wipe out this brush. Get a little oil in there and wipe it out a little bit better. I think what I asked myself the question, what does this painting need in order to elevate it right now? I'm gonna start putting in some of the lighter blues, which are gonna have a little, they're gonna be very faint, almost like a steely gray finish to them, maybe with a little hint of lavender. There we go. I'll vary it here and there so I get this nice puddle of loose paint still. And I'm going to use that up toward the top of the sky here. We're going to create a little V. Type shape, and then, you know, there'll be some striations. We wouldn't want to totally destroy the vibe we've going on there, but we just do want that juxtaposition of cool and warm. We'll probably fade this out at some point, wipe it a little bit. Actually, I'm going to do that right now. Some of that golden yellow ochre fade in a little bit. And we'll play with the edges here. some of that blue down into this gray area a little bit. Maybe it's a reflection of the sky on the top of the scene. And then maybe, yeah, some of that comes down in here. And then we're going to gray this out and darken it up once again. And get more down here. Okay, I'm gonna get a clean brush and we're gonna clean dry brush here. A little chip brush. Gonna work out some of the qualities of the bristles here, and we're just gonna soften some of the shapes in the water a little bit. Start by coming across. And then we'll pull down. Do the same thing. Oops. A weird chunker there. Come across, straight across in some of these areas where we got a hair there. Pull down again. It's one of the dangers of using some paint that's aged a little bit. Sometimes you do get thicker chunks of paint, and that's okay. Key is not to panic. Which is easier said than done. Okay. All right. Gonna work on this tree again and build some spots where there's some broader spaces, and I'll work in some of the background colors. Good start here. All right, I'm gonna break out some more burnt umber and Payne's gray. Just put it right over the top of this pile here. That's the Payne's Gray, and then burnt umber right over the top of this pile right here. I'm going to get this darker brush, and I'm going to get a mix of the Payne's Gray and the burnt umber going. And we're just going to darken this area a little bit further. And again, a mixture of burnt umber and Payne's Gray. Not too worried about how it goes on, just covering, because this is going to be, you know, what's operating in the background. I'm going to get some of that in there too. And then maybe even select areas in this tree. Alright, we're almost to the point we're going to start adding some of the illusions of detail, if you will. I got this brush, and actually to start with, I'm going to use the back end here. And just get some of those little tidbits in there, which will get partially covered. And also, use, let's see. I think I'm in pretty good shape here. I'm gonna use my brush here and pull some of these down a little bit further. There you go. Oops. There we go. Dry brush again. Just go across. Nice thing going here, I think. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna excuse me. I'm gonna use the back of my brush here to put in some kind of horizontal type lines, create some indication of some shifting planes and such in the landscape, and just the illusion of maybe, you know, some different things going on there. Closer to the shoreline here. Same thing. I could always come back in and fix some of that up if I don't like the way it comes out. Which I'll probably do right now. I'll take advantage of those little imperfections that happen from scraping paint off and such. Create the illusion of detail. Maybe there's a little path, maybe there's a little ridgeway, who knows. Okay. So now I'm going to take here we go. This little rough, thin brush. And I'm going to get some of that Payne's Gray and burnt umber mixture on there. And I'm going to use it to have some shadowy reeds rather come up from the wetlands here. And I'm just going to pull up just like that. Got to be brave. Pull up. Pull up. Okay. And we're going to get a bunch of those in. Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. Okay. And we'll keep working those in to varying degrees of height and thickness and warmth and color temperature. And as we get further away, they might get a little thinner, maybe angled out a little bit. It's better if you use your whole arm here as opposed to my wrist. You can see the difference in the quality of the marks. Be a few more down here. And I'll pull in a little bit of that red that's left of it. Oops, that's okay. A little bit of a thicker one. Oh, that's okay. Not ideal, but it's all good. And then this a little wetter. Yeah, maybe there's a few rogue reeds here. Maybe there's a few coming out of the water here. There we go. Yeah, there's another one here. Maybe draw some ripples and stuff coming out. Another one or two right here. Oops. Now, take a look at how these go into the water, and there'll be a little bit of a series of shadows, and then, you know, ultimately a imperfect reflection, which we'll have to take a deep breath, put the brush, and drop it down. Very nerve-wracking. Whoops. That's okay. Okay. make a mess here. Okay. Let's see, how does that look on camera? Pretty darn good. I'm happy with it. Yeah, there might be some indication of maybe some of these reeds here. And while I have it, maybe I'll use this with a little shift more toward the Payne's Gray. To help, whoops, it's a little wet. That's okay. To help accentuate, this tree and some of the darker spots that are going to exist. All right, I'm gonna wipe this brush out. I'm gonna get some of this ochre. In there, and we're gonna get some indication of some of these reeds catching the light a little differently. Off to the side here. Now, wipe out this brush. A little bit of the white paint in here. Pull in some of that light blue. I want a real light gray with a lean toward blue-green. And kind of have that going right now. Let's see. That'll register just right, I think. What we'll do, let's put an indication of, maybe there being some ripples close to where These guys are... Whoops, a little too heavy-handed there. It's okay. We will thin that out and create some variants using the back of the brush, and also by blending it in a little bit. Bring that up just a little. Whoops. All right. Let's do this. The back of the brush here as well to kind of help out and just make this a little busier. There are some broken ones. And I'll play with this tree a little bit more. I'm going to go into my dark brownish gray here again, and we're just going to pepper this in select areas, break up the highlights. All right. Liking the way this is looking. We are coming in on just about an hour, and there might be some additional touches I add here and there, but for the most part this little painting is done. Maybe I'll look at it and I'll want to add some glazes or adjust some of the shapes, but for the most part we'll call it a day. I appreciate you checking out my channel. Thanks for joining. Stay well. Hope to see you again next time.